Rob, it looks like the JSE has finally capitulated today and is following those global markets weaker, and that follows a couple of stronger days for the JSE.
Yes, I think we've had 6 trading days in a row that have been positive. While we saw the States come down on Friday and yesterday, so finally coming down as well in conjunction with the rest of the markets worldwide. And I think definitely we needed to come down slightly. We were starting to get definitely overbought and really quite overbought prices. We saw Anglos at around the 295 level, which are touched on Friday, so coming off quite a lot from there.
And of course, Anglos has had a strong run as well, because we have seen those commodity prices doing quite well in the past few sessions.
Yes, commodities have been doing very well, and obviously those prices since March have been steadily moving forward. And we're starting to see now the dollar, a little bit of strength coming back into the dollar, and those commodity prices falling off, and some profit taking coming into those commodity shares.
Is that what you think it is across the board though, Rob, and profit taking perhaps in the US markets as well? Because we do have the earnings season continuing, and those results are for the most part better than expected. I mean, do you think it was just time for investors to take a step back in that market?
I think so. A lot of the prices have improved over the period because they've expected really good earnings, and those earnings are coming through, but they're not overshooting extensively. So I think that it is already in the price, and it's just confirmation that the earnings have got better and people now can take money off the table. So I think that it is just profit taking, and we'll just have to wait and see for the rest of the earnings seasons if those positive earnings continue, but it looks like they will continue, remembering that they've come off a very low base, and therefore people are taking profit off the table.
Of course, you did mention that the dollar has found its feet a little bit. We had the rand trading around 7.59 just a short while ago. And of course, that will be good news for mostly our gold companies and our resources companies going forward, if it does continue this weakening trend.
Yes, definitely we need a softer rand in South Africa for the manufacturers as well as the gold companies, so that they can get income from that very strong gold price. We saw the gold price come down as well with the rest of commodities, but still trading at $1,040, which is a good level, and with a weaker rand obviously does help those gold miners.
We had some trading updates out today. We had Aquarius and Mondi both coming out with trading updates, and both of those companies saying that the strong rand has been hurting them. So, I mean, another 2 companies that will benefit going forward.
Yes, you know, if we've got Pravin Gordon with the medium-term budget, and we'll just see how poor our budget deficit is to GDP and where they feel GDP is going, and from that we might see the rand weakening even further, and a softer rand for Aquarius companies like Mondi will help them definitely with costs as well as increasing their earnings from the export of their commodities.
Of course, our losses, our market is down across the board today, and resources particularly hard hit, down 2.5%. Banks also coming under pressure, and of course we did have news that Dutch bank ING is raising capital in the markets, and that's putting pressure on financial shares globally, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It also increased the volatility index quite a lot, and that volatility index went up to 11% in Europe, so brought a little bit of volatility back. It shows you that the banks still need liquidity, and if they're not taking money from stimulus packages, they still do need to go to the market for liquidity, so putting a little bit of pressure on the financials all across the board, and we see our South African banks under a lot of pressure today as well.
Of course, you mentioned the MTBPS and the impact that could have on the rand. I mean, are equity players also watching this mini budget statement for signs of how the economy looks going forward?
Definitely. I think if you take a look at the bond yields, they've moved up to 12-month highs, and that is on the back of how much money the government is actually lending currently, and it will be quite interesting to see how much the budget deficit is to the GDP. Now, if that number is beyond 10%, 11 or 12%, that's going to be quite worrying for South Africa to have such a huge budget deficit. We'll see money flow out of the country if the budget deficit gets too high to GDP, and that could put pressure on the rand. We'll see the rand weakening, but not for the right reasons.
Of course, you mentioned those US earnings and the fact that they are coming in ahead of expectations, but really coming off a low base at this stage. And really the same goes for the economic data we're seeing coming out of the United States, isn't it, Rob? Because we had that Midwest manufacturing number in the US. It rose last month, but it still really is 15% down from where it was a year ago.
Yeah, if you take a look at that, a 15% decrease year on year, which is still a very big decrease. And so coming off a very low base, and so much more that American economy has to do really to get back on its feet. So moving off a low base, and you know, the increases need to be slightly larger. We want to see a 3 or 4% increase and moving into really positive numbers. So at the moment, we're a little bit, the numbers are less worse than they were before, but they're not necessarily good numbers, and we need those good numbers to come out, and we need employment numbers to start improving.
And some of those numbers have actually been boosted by stimulus, or stimuli rather. I mean, the manufacturing sector was boosted by the cash for clunkers. We know that the housing sector has been boosted by those tax credits that were given to first-time home buyers. So as those are withdrawn from the system, it means we could see some pretty flat numbers going forward, I should imagine.
Definitely, there's a debate now whether how long are these stimulus packages going to last. We already see that the tax looks like the tax for first-time buyers is going to be coming off early in next year. So that's going to be problematic for new home buyers. And is China going to carry on with the stimulus packages, etc., around the world? So if these stimulus packages start to wane off, how much damage is that going to do to the recovery of the economy? So something that economists are looking at very closely over the next few months.
Rob, just finally, Anglo-American, we mentioned the price has come down from the 295.50 that it hit last Friday. It's coming off a bit, but of course, Anglo does have some big plans on the table for a restructuring of the group. One of those is perhaps selling SCOR Metals. I mean, what do you think that the opportunities are for this?
I think the analysts have put SCOR Metals at about, I think it's $1 billion. They've got the different factories across the world, and not only in South Africa. And some people saying that it might even be a new listing on the exchange, which I think is quite positive for Anglo-American. Obviously, they're trying to get cash in and clean up that. And clean up their balance sheet. So if they clean up that balance sheet, I think maybe it would be very nice for on the trading side of things if they actually listed SCOR Metals, which would be very positive for our exchange. But possibly they've got a buyer there, but tight-lipped about it now. But we'll be looking closely to see whether they're going to list SCOR Metals or if there'll be a buyer which will be a purely cash generator for Anglo-American.